Hi tribe, and welcome to the Empowered Eating Sabotages. So there's 7 of these in this series, and they are all about your coding from your childhood. So something happens from the ages of 0 to 7, and then you spend the rest of your life actually backing up that thought and belief about yourself that you came up with when you were 0 to 7. And that then flows on to the behavior that you have around food as an adult. So the one that I'm going to talk about today is abandonment. And abandonment, this one hits home for me because it was one of my stories and one of my coding. So my biological father left when I was 2, and then I felt abandoned. I felt alone in the world and that no one was here to protect me, and I had to go out and just do everything on my own terms. But whenever my flatmate would leave the house, I would binge on their food. So it sounds really bad, and I wonder if any of my flatmates are actually listening to this. But unfortunately, that feeling of abandonment and being left in the house by myself, I would binge eat. I'd open up the cupboards and look at whatever food was in there. Most of the time it wasn't my food, and I would actually steal their food and binge on it because all this bubbling of abandonment would come up. So that was that 2-year-old me that I'm alone, I'm abandoned, and this isn't safe, and I don't like this, showed up in my teenage years when I was abandoned and left in the house by myself. I would go binge eat. This also continued in my early adulthood, and when my ex-husband would leave the house, I would again raid the cupboards because I was being abandoned and I didn't like being alone. And what would happen if I was left alone, then I'd have to deal with all my childhood trauma. And if I have to deal with all my childhood trauma, that's really scary, and I would cover it up with food. And you might find that you might be covering up any of your childhood stuff with food because you've got this fear of abandonment. And if you're left alone for too long, you're actually stuck in having to deal with your own stuff. So you find food is a really good filler so that you don't have to concentrate on your childhood and work through all of that. So therefore, binging is an easy option. It gets you an escapism, and you don't have to deal with your own thoughts that are running around in your head about either your marriage not working, which was one of the issues that I had, or childhood trauma, or anything to do with work. If you're left alone, you are left alone in your own thoughts, and then that leads to unresourceful behavior around food. So you can see how all this has a flow-on effect. And if we don't start to unravel all these thoughts and beliefs about yourself and reframe them in a much more resourceful way, unfortunately, you're going to keep doing this behavior over and over and over again. So I want this for you. I want this ability to break through and have an empowered relationship with food and really find out where a lot of this stuff comes from. When was the first time that you felt abandoned? And if that is one of your coding or one of your sabotages from your childhood, then we need to work on this together to actually find out how can we reframe this differently so that you have a different thought and belief and a different meaning about abandonment as opposed to filling it with food, because that's unresourceful and it doesn't lead to an empowered relationship with food. And when my clients have an empowered relationship with food, then they have that inner confidence and that inner self-belief and that inner happiness, and they show up differently in their marriages. They show up differently as a role model to their children. They show up differently at work because they know that they deserve success. They know they deserve happiness. They know that they deserve love because they've dealt with all of this coding. So I hope these videos are helping. Every single week I will pop up the next video and we will work through those 7 sabotages so that you can have an empowered relationship with food. If you're enjoying these and know that someone needs help, please like and share my videos so that I can leave a legacy to be able to help others have an empowered relationship with food, because my legacy is to touch, move and inspire women to have an empowered relationship with food. I hope you enjoy these videos. Comment, like, share, and I'll see you next week.